All right, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining June's Sustainability Chat featuring Hilltopper Refuse and Recycling. I'm Casey Meehan. I'm the Director of Sustainability and Resilience at Western Technical College in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I also work with the Sustainability Institute to produce programming for the organization. The Sustainability Institute, if you're not familiar with it, it's a 501c3 located in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and actually housed at Western Technical College. And our mission is to celebrate sustainability efforts within our area. So really what we want to do is help people paint a positive vision of what a sustainable future looks like in the Driftless region. Just a couple of matters of housekeeping here. In order for all of this to run smoothly, please keep your cameras off and your microphones muted. We are monitoring the chat box though, so if you've got a question or concern, that's the best way to communicate with us. Just type it in the chat box. To access that box, look for the conversation bubble icon that's located in the toolbar of your Zoom screen. And this chat, just so everyone is aware, this chat is going to be recorded, and it's going to be available on the Sustainability Institute website in the next couple of days. So if you've never been to one of our chats, the general plan here is that after I give just a short intro, our guest usually gives about a 25-minute-ish presentation or tour, and then we'll have about 10 minutes or so for questions and answers. So if you have questions, please type them into the chat box. And what we'll do is collate those questions and we'll feed them to our speaker during the Q&A time. So again, if questions come up during the presentation, that's great. Just put them in the box. We'll get to those at the end of the session. So at the Sustainability Institute, we are really under the firm belief that sustainability is about much more than just the environment, which of course it is about the environment, right? But at its root, sustainability is really about helping people thrive. And we need way more than just a clean environment to do that, to make sure that people thrive. They need all sorts of other things as well. Now, the good news about that is that there's actually a plan. There's been a plan in place since about 2015, and our programming at the Sustainability Institute is based around that plan. So that plan is what's called the Global Goals, or the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And the UN Sustainable Development Goals are a set of 17 interconnected goals that 193 nations around the world signed onto, including the United States, signed onto these back in 2015. And really they're meant to address some of the most pressing problems that we are facing right now. So poverty and climate change and inequity and the loss of biodiversity. So like I said, we at the Sustainability Institute believe strongly in framing our programming around that. And this month, we're focused on goal number 12, which is about sustainable production and consumption. So one of the components to sustainability is being responsible in the way that we produce goods and consume goods. And really that means taking care to waste less. And the waste that we do produce, making sure that we are responsible with what we're doing with it afterwards. So of particular interest today is food waste and wasting less of the food that we're growing. In fact, Americans, this is stunning to me. In North America, we end up losing between 1/3 and 40% of food before it even reaches our mouths. So this is despite 1 in 10 people in the United States experiencing food insecurity in 2019, and 800 million people around the world living in hunger. So throwing out food, I mean, this is a huge amount of food that we're wasting, and throwing it out doesn't just waste that food, it also wastes the land that the food was grown on, and the water and the fertilizer and the energy, all those things that the food needed to grow, right? And the resources needed to transport that food from the farm to our tables. So there's the waste factor, right? But then when food goes to the landfill, it also creates huge amounts of methane. which is a greenhouse gas that's about 20 times more potent than CO2. So these are gases that are causing climate change. In fact, food waste is responsible for about 8% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the US every year. That's a huge chunk. Now, is there something we can do about it? Yes, there is. Absolutely. It turns out there's several things we can do about it. One of the big things is just sort of conceptual, right? So we need to stop conceptualizing our economy, and our food economy is this linear thing, right? Where we take a bunch of resources and make stuff or grow stuff, and then dispose of the waste as byproducts. So it's like this linear thing, right? Instead, we need to start thinking of the economy and our production is cyclical. So in a circular economy, we take these resources, we make things, but then the end product, the waste that comes out of that is actually serves as nutrients for another industry, right? So our waste is actually a resource for another industry. So it completes this cycle, right? This circle. So how does Hilltopper refuse and recycling relate to food waste? How do they have anything to do with this? Well, turns out that Hilltopper is leading the way in our region in helping to solve our food waste problem, because they're providing a key link to keep food waste from some of our biggest food waste sources in the community out of the landfill. And we're excited to learn a little bit more today about how exactly they're doing that. And that's not all. Hilltopper is also, they saw a gap in recycling services, especially in some of our largest events in the area. And so Hilltopper figured out a way to step in and provide recycling services for some of these big events that we have in the Driftless region. So before I introduce our guest, we want to put a poll. You'll see it in front of you right now. Just looking to see those of you that are in the session right now, what are you most interested in learning about today? So your answers here will help us and help Brandon, our guest, figure out sort of what direction to take this chat in today. So if you could take just a couple of seconds and answer the two questions in front of you. All right, take about 10 more seconds. All right, great. So Brandon, it looks like organic composting or organics composting is the primary thing that people are interested in learning about. And with a little bit of the special event recycling as well. So, all right, so without further ado, I want to introduce to you Brandon Knutson. He is the general manager at Hilltopper Refuse and Recycling. And Brandon has been with Hilltopper for about 4 years now. And he's been involved actually with the Sustainability Institute for nearly as long, giving some great advice and guidance to the Sustainability Institute, and just his energy is great. So I think you'll find that his enthusiasm for making our region, the Driftless region, cleaner and healthier and more sustainable is infectious. So with that, Brandon, I'm turning it over to you, and enjoy, everybody.
Well, great. Thank you, Casey. So a little bit, Casey kind of broke the ice great there. So my name is Brandon Knutson. I am the general manager at Hilltopper Refuse and Recycling in Onalaska. I'm a Holman kid, so I grew up in the area. I went to UWL and got my bachelor's degree in recreation management. So I stuck around the area. So I came to Hilltopper, and I kind of started on with Hilltopper as an intern, really. After I graduated college, I got brought here. I really didn't have, I had made some connections along the way. So that's kind of what brought me here. So I started out working with just a special event recycling program, and then I found my way to where I am today. So it's to kind of just work my way up the ladder. And it's really been a great 3.5 years since I've been here. So I'm very pleased to share some of the projects that I've been working on over these last 3.5 years. But it was said without Hilltopper and the guidance of some of my coworkers and stuff, I wouldn't have been able to make this stuff happen. So again, huge shout out to Hilltopper really to helping make these things happen. It's not just me. So in that instance, I am going to share with you guys a PowerPoint just to make sure that you guys see this. So everybody see this okay, Casey?
Looks good, Brandon.
Okay. So, so starting out, so again, this is going to be more focused on the organics program that we started back in 2019, in the end of the summer of 2019, and the special event recycling program that really got me started here at Hilltopper. That's kind of flourished over the past three years. So again, if there's any questions along the way, you can enter them in the chat. I think Casey and Carrie are going to monitor those questions, so feel free to ask away. Casey, if there's anything that's really interacts or really needs to be answered right away, just let me know, stop me. I've got no problem with that whatsoever. So the first thing we've got going on here is just the basics of composting. Casey he elaborated very well on the importance of composting in our area. Not just in our area, but just the overall concept of composting. So as you can see here, that food waste, with me being, in the waste sector, industry, waste and recycling, I have close interaction with landfill, and as you can see here, the combustion facilities. So in regards to when you see the 22% of RDF, when I regards to RDF, that means the refuse derived fuel. So that is in our area, we're unique because we do have that Xcel energy burn facility out on French Island. So again, that's a totally different concept. We can get there, ask questions at the end if you guys want to know more about that. But so as you can see here, 24% of the material, this is based off an EPA study that was done, I believe, in 2020, 2019, that 24% of the material that reaches landfill has the opportunity to be composted, whether that be food waste, fibers, etc. So as you can see, 24%, and that's a quarter of the waste stream that's going out to landfills across the world is food waste or material that can be composted. So in the end, that just speaks for itself alone. And then that just goes the same thing with the combustible facilities, right around that 22% is just material that can be diverted technically from these I say wasting areas, but areas that are filling up fast when it comes to landfill space. That's a huge problem on its own. Again, don't want to speak too much on this stuff, but I want to get to the just specific about the programs here at Hilltopper. But Casey mentioned about the climate change issue. Food waste does create a lot of methane. So in the end, when it goes to landfills and it breaks down, that is one of the biggest issues when it comes to greenhouse gases. So that's one of the biggest issues with putting food into just normal waste streams. The improvement to soil and other natural resources. So I don't know if you guys, anybody on this chat uses compost for their gardens, their flowers, landscaping, etc. As you can see, when you use water, when you water your plants and stuff, I know as I have flowers and stuff at home that I use just compost for, and I don't hardly have to water them. I mean, it uses so much, it saves so much water that that you don't have to use so much water consumption. So that's just overall improvements to just the natural resources in water. And then just the soil, the nutrients and stuff that is found in compost, it speaks for itself. And then the last thing is just for in our area directly with the lacrosse community and businesses benefits that, again, I'll kind of reach to just the program itself, but we're saving a lot of these area businesses money when it comes to their waste streams. And if you think about it, with these large companies in regards to festival foods, they've got a lot of waste. So in the end, if we can help them save $1 in the end, that's huge to our just local economies and everything as well. So again, I don't want to speak too much on just this info. I want to get you guys introduced kind of just our program itself here at Hilltopper. So 1 second, drink water. So yeah, so now we'll jump right back into what we do specifically at Hilltopper. So how did this get started? How did this program start? We identified that there was a community demand. And again, you'll kind of see there's a correlation a little bit with those first bullet points on the special event recycling and the organics. So we saw that there was a community demand and an interest in organic composting. So other areas, bigger municipalities and stuff throughout the Midwest, even when you get out to New York, LA, California, where it's by law that you have to pretty much collect organics. It's starting flowing back through these smaller municipalities and everything, obviously in La Crosse now. And we have observed that back in 2018, and Casey can probably mention that it's been long before that even, that this conversation started. So, and back when I kind of started back in 2017, I started getting engaged with the communities, going to the Western discussions about organics. And there was been some other things that floated around throughout Myrick and just community gatherings in regards to just diverting organics. What could we do? So then that kind of sparked my ideas of, okay, what do we do first, commercial or residential? So at Hilltopper, we observed that it was more beneficial to start with commercial than residential due to just the facility that we have to take the material to at the end. So we take all the material that we collect to Green Earth Compost, which is still doing windrow processing. So it's a little, you can say, outdated compared to, I've got a brother that lives in Edina, so they have a full-on dehydrator and everything with the technology and stuff to break down food waste. So it's easier to throw everything in one bin, when it comes to chicken, proteins, dairies, and all that stuff. But around here, we can't do that. So it was observed to keep the stream more clean if we were to go commercial versus residential first. So that's where we're at with that, whereas commercial just seemed to be more feasible for us. So that's the route that we took. So outreach and data collection, surveys, business evals, direct phone calls. When we started saying, okay, we can do this, we can make this a reality. How can we gather data? And so the first way that we looked at it was I pretty much just jotted down, or actually reviewed first of the companies that we currently work with, Festival Foods, People's Food Co-op. I contact those people first and say, okay, what do you think about this? And kind of just gathered that basic interest and see what they thought. Most of the people that I contacted were all on board with it. So it kind of made my job easy when it came down to, okay, here's your price, here's what's going to possibly help you save. And in the end, when I said, okay, it can help you save money, oh, absolutely. They're all on board. So that was kind of just my next approach after I kind of observed that the commercial route was the way to go. Made contact with people, see what they thought, and then came the implementation. It was, we have dumpsters and everything available on or in our inventory, but the things that we purchased different color lids just to kind of differentiate between refuse and recycling. But in the end, it just came down to just we have all the material ready. We've got the trucks, we have the containers to collect, the resources, everything else. But like I said, I like to mention that it was Hilltopper built that bridge between the commercial organization and the compost site. So it's like us as a hauler built that. We finished that. We built that bridge to connect the two. That we observed there was an issue. So yeah, so that's kind of how it all got started. And how's it going now? So businesses, organizations involved. We currently work with Festival Foods, UW La Crosse, People's Food Co-op, Wafer, and I think those are the only ones that are currently involved. As far as commercial basis, we're getting interest from some other individual businesses and stuff throughout the area. Due to COVID, it kind of threw us for a loop. Everything, obviously, when it comes to restaurants and stuff, other businesses, they'll kind of put a halt to things, and collecting organics just wasn't on the top of the list. So we're starting to rebound from the whole COVID thing. But So yeah, so those are kind of the individuals that are interested or are currently involved. The collection methods, we use just, I think, 2 to 4 yard dumpsters currently. We line the inside of our dumpsters to ensure that the materials, we can run this program year round. I know that we've ran into issues in the past, or even just talking to people, that the winter months we had to shut down the program because we can't get the material out of the container. We observed that if we line our metal containers with a bed liner similar to Linex, that the material slides right out, doesn't stick to anything. So we can run this program year round. So we've solved another problem there that was observed in Milwaukee and Minneapolis and Green Bay area that they were having issues with. So our material collected year to date. So we started the program back in 2019 in August. And as of today, I think this is actually the beginning of or end of May, we've collected 377.5 tons of organic material. So that material would have just gone to the general waste stream. And so we've successfully diverted that much material from the general waste stream. So again, that's a huge success for us. And that's, again, just with the 4 festival food locations in the area, People's Food Co-op, Wafer, and UW La Crosse. So like I said, that speaks for itself, and there's a lot more room to grow. So that's just, if we can just do that much with just those individual businesses, we've got a ways to go. And then the last thing on this slide is just the future visions. I know that we're going to have a question coming up here in a little bit, so Carrie, I'll let you know when we can post that. But our residential collection, we would like to expand into just offering at curbside. I know that there's a huge demand for it, but in the end, it's about keeping the streams clean. We know that there's going to be contamination. There's always contamination with recycling. I mean, it never ends. But when it comes to organic composting, it's more strict. So we're currently, I've been dealing with or working with the city of La Crescent and their sustainability coordinator over there. I've been working with Winona County. So there's some options and stuff across the river. I've worked with the village of Holman and kind of brought this up to them. It's kind of more of like pilot studies. So we'll kind of see how those go. But in the end, it comes down to even what is acceptable in those streams. And that's based off of the compost site itself. I don't make those rules and stuff. So it all flows through Tom Dummer down at Green Earth Compost. But yeah, so that's kind of just where we're at in the growth of just commercial. It's like there's plenty of other commercial businesses out there that even have shown interest that just haven't got around to pulling the trigger yet of collecting organics. So that's just the future visions, that we've got some good options to look forward to. I kind of just want to show some pictures here that these are dumpsters. I think the top left in the middle. Yep. So the left and the middle one are from Festival Foods, and the right one is from the People's Food Co-op on La Crosse. So it just goes to show that, I mean, it's kind of sad to see that there's, full watermelons and full fruit and stuff going out still, but at this point, it's actually better than being thrown right in your waste streams. And technically really just getting wasted, where this stuff is going all down to the compost site. It'll get mixed in with, sawdust and other woods to kind of soak up that leachate stuff, that leakage, and get made into new dirt, so which is pretty cool. So Carrie, if you want to share that question, we'll kind of break the ice that way and see what people respond with. So here it's kind of just helping me out kind of gauge, let's get this residential stuff rolling. So this question is, if we at Hilltopper were to offer residential curbside collection of organics, what is the most you'd be willing to pay for a weekly service using a provided 35-gallon cart? So again, we're looking at using a smaller cart than what you would probably have at your house, which is a 95-gallon, probably 96. So again, this would be much smaller, but again, this doesn't have to be a weekly service. It could be every other week, depending on the time of the year. But So this is going to help me kind of just get an idea of, what are people willing to pay? What is the most expensive you'd be willing to pay for this kind of service? Okay, so then Carrie, Casey, and I will kind of review those towards the end. We don't need to kind of keep that stuff public. It's just going to be more information for me to move this program along at Hilltopper for looking at visions of going residential. So now the next thing, if I can move on to my next slide, there we go, is our special event recycling program here at Hilltopper. So again, this really got what got me employed here at Hilltopper. So this is kind of technically, would say, my baby. But so each year we work with events that are located in our area, not even just physically in the Cross. We get up to Trempealeau County. We'll be doing some stuff in Melrose this year. We go to Winona. So we're broadening the horizons a little bit here with this program. So as you can see, with our little flyer over here, I'll kind of just answer a handful of things as we go on, but that we get into 25, or we've worked with 25 events in the past, and that's growing. We have worked with, well, I guess I can do the outcomes and stuff, so I won't run through this flyer quite yet. But so just leading off at the top is going back to that organics in regards to that first bullet point. We observed that the organics, there was a community demand, whereas this program, there was a community need. We saw that events and stuff there was an opportunity for us to help these events out. So it's like, okay, let's see what we can do here, because nobody else is doing it. So it's like, why should these events technically recycle? So it's like, it spreads education awareness, whereas I kind of referenced before that recycling is already an issue even at your home. So it's just like, well, if we can use this to kind of use it as a marketing tool, an educational thing for those people when they take things home, why not? I mean, this is just an opportunity for us to get out there and share our thoughts and share what needs to be done. And the last thing, it's just the right thing. Like you said, it's like we do this at home, we do this at work, we recycle. We teach our kids how to recycle. It's in our curriculums at school. Why don't we just do it at these local events as well? I mean, it was just something that we observed as the right thing to do. So in regards to our program, the engagement that we have with these events, we come up right next to me. It's like most of the times, like these events are reaching out to us in the past. Okay, I need a 20-yard container for our event here in La Crosse. Whereas now is like we reach out to them at the beginning of the year for the event season and saying, how can we help you? We offer this, and kind of run it down and make it easier on them. Like I said, it's just, let's be honest, that these events aren't worried about their trash and recycling when it comes to Ash for the Arts, when they're getting big name event or singers and bands and stuff. And it's the last thing they want to be worrying about is their trash and recycling. So how can we help? So that's the engagement that comes from Hilltopper. So the services provided, we went out and bought 10 or 100 of the Clearstream containers. As you can see in the pictures to the right, that those are the Clearstream recycling bins. You guys have probably seen them at the events if you've gone to them. But we purchased 100 of these because we invested in the program because we saw that it was going to be something that would take off. The staffing, so if somebody is interested in the program, say again, Airfest, if you guys, anybody went to Airfest this past weekend, you probably saw these containers. So the staffing, so we tell the event coordinators and stuff that, okay, you guys invest in this program, we set things up, we give the education, post-event, we take everything down, we give you a rundown of what was collected, etc. And then just as far as the education goes too, so we can, we've done handouts and stuff in the past. We're looking at expanding our engagement with just recycling. Do we put more information on these Clearstream recycling bins? So we're always looking to just expand the program and use our resources and stuff that we have available to us. So then the next thing was just a unique approach. This year, we're taking a look at if the event succeeds with the collection recycling and everything is kind of worked out the way that we planned. So again, I kind of just use a reference with Riverfest coming up, that we're going to work with them. It's been discussed if they collect X amount of dollars of aluminum, Hilltopper refunds them back. So again, with Riverfest is unique because it's all sponsorship for Hilltopper. So we sponsor the whole entire event, all of our services, everything. But to help, just because it's a nonprofit event, it's like, okay, how can we be more engaged now? How can we, it's a marketing thing for Hilltopper really in the end. So it's okay, so if you collect X amount of dollars of aluminum, we'll cut you a check right back. So it's like, you guys did a great job. You encourage your participants to recycle. The event staff was engaged. Here you go. Here's $750 for that you can put towards any you can put it right back into the event itself, or you can give it to a nonprofit organization, to a community organization, who knows. So that's the way that Hilltopper is engaging with this program, where it's more than just collecting recycling and trash at these events. And then we take that unique approach with social media. So as you can see, that picture on the bottom right is, or there's just pictures itself along the side. Those are all from the local events that we've worked with. We post things on Facebook, do some stuff on LinkedIn and that stuff. But so we get the event's name out there as well. It's not just for us, it's for the event itself too. So then as far as the outcomes, what have we done with this program? What has been success so far? So we have made an impact with city and county officials. So in the past, I don't know if any of you guys have applied for an event permit or worked through that process. There was no, I think they might have just mentioned those permits with waste and recycling. And there's nothing that was too strict about it. But in the city of La Crosse, it is now mandatory that you supply the city of La Crosse a waste and recycling plan. And based off of pretty much this program itself, that's what kind of drove them to doing such. Along with county officials, we've met with La Crosse County officials about about just this itself too when it comes to event permits. So we met with county board members and stuff. So it's been successful on that end as well. So then we also received the DNR statewide award for the program back in 2018, I believe, 2019. So like I said, it's been recognized throughout the state and everything as well, which is pretty cool. And what are our future visions? To be totally honest, like I said, we're just continuing to grow and working with other events. My number one goal is trying to get every single event in our area, whether, just the larger ones, to work with us for this program. So there's still a handful of them out there. I know Cornfest hasn't worked with us in the past, whereas I'm currently putting together a proposal for them for their event in August. So that's one I would like to check off the list since I'm from Holmen. So it's like, let's influence those rest of those Holmen people to gain and get interest along with everybody else in the area. But like I said, we've worked with unique things like with the Oktoberfest parade. So again, when you guys see that this year, that hopefully we have, in the past, we passed out blue bags for a quarter, I think, of the parade route in the past. So hopefully this year we can do the whole entire parade route, pass out blue recycling bags and collect them with separated from a refuse and recycling, which was observed as something that the officials thought it was nuts when I brought it up to them. But it was a success the first year. So let's just continue to grow it. And then, so again, this is just a visual of like the events that we've worked with in the past. Again, this is not all of them, but more the larger events that we've worked with. So it varies, it fluctuates between small and large. But in the end, they all have the same goal of trying to divert the recycling from the refuse. And like I said, they all kind of feed off each other. So it's nice when there's kind of this competition going between Country Boom Mash for the Arts and Oktoberfest. And so it's like, and maybe that's the future of, okay, let's put these big events that have the large participants, let's put them up against each other and see exactly the percent of recycling that's diverted from the normal waste streams. We've still got a ways to go, but in the end, each year, as you can see in that visual that I had, each year we've grown. 2019 compared to 2018, you can see it almost doubled. And then obviously last year we didn't have anything due to COVID, and now this year we've got a fresh start. And this coming, as of last week, Airfest, every single weekend this month we'll have something. Next month, I think every single weekend we have events we're working with and so forth for August and into September. So it's looking pretty promising. But there's that. So then that kind of wraps it up. This is kind of more of a thing on our website of just informational news articles that we've gotten recognition from in the past. So as you can see, this is just a screenshot of the page on the website. But if you go to our website, hilltopperrefuse.com, and there should be a little tab about in the news. And so you can see the articles and stuff, news articles that we worked with Wafer in the past with organics. There's some other stuff below this with Riverfest and Festival Foods Organics and other special event stuff. So feel free to read more articles and stuff based off that website.
And Brandon, we've got a number of questions.
Great, bring them on.
Yeah. So you know, just in interest of time, we like to try to get people out around 2:45 or so. But we'll maybe stick around a little bit later because there's just some really interesting questions here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first one deals with with composting and contaminants. So how do you prevent or regulate contaminants, especially stuff like PFAS? Especially, if we think about compostable foodware and just the foodware, right, that has lots of PFAS in them. Are there ways that you regulate that? Or, do you test for contaminants in the compost afterwards? Or how do you make sure they don't get in there in the first place?
Yeah, so PFAS is we've observed that from the waste and recycling industry. Oh boy, we've probably been talking about it for over a year since they've even been in the news and stuff, in local news. So we've observed this as a problem for quite some time. But in our area, when it comes to composting in the facility and stuff, we're okay. So that's not really an issue. But when it comes down to the PFAS and composting, there are correlations to those two. But that gets more into discussion when you include your compostable plastics into your waste stream, your compost waste stream, your organics waste stream. Currently, we don't do that. We don't include any of the compostable plastics. So we don't have to worry about that at the moment. But and again, when it comes down to the compost site, that's a totally different business side from Hilltopper. But I know that Tom Dummer's got to have DNR permits and everything down at Green Earth Compost. He's got the DNR that comes out there all the time, make sure that there's the runoffs and stuff from the facility. It's not getting in certain waste or water streams and et cetera. But in our area, we don't accept any of the compostable plastics and stuff. So our organics waste streams and stuff around here are okay. But I know in regards to the Milwaukee area, I've had a connection down there that she said that their organic site that they were taking all of their streams and stuff to the organics got shut down due to PFAS. So that is a problem, but as of in our area right now, we don't have to really worry about that.
And and if I understand it correctly, you don't, like at Hilltop, you're not actually creating the compost. That's going to another company. So that's sort of
it's a third party, right? Yep. So we just haul it. That's all pretty much that we do. So we just make sure, like I mentioned, we built that bridge between the people that are producing it. We bring it up, put it in our dumpsters. We bring it to Tom down at his facility, and then he does all the windrow process and stuff and breaks the material down.
And you mentioned no plastics or the compostable plastics. What about the compostable bowls and plates and things like that?
So as of right now, we don't include any of that stuff.
None of that.
You'll see some fibers and stuff in the waste stream, but as of right now, if it's just paper, it's a different story. I mean, that's okay. But when it comes down to compostable plastics and stuff, that if it's fiber, it should be okay as long as it doesn't have any food waste on it and stuff like that. It should be all right. But
Do you have a breakdown? This is another question from Beth. Do you have a breakdown of the food waste recycling rates for La Crosse County or Wisconsin in general?
so is like what like the tipping fee or something like that would be? Is that kind of what
I'm thinking like, and Beth, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but I'm thinking actual like what percentage of food waste is actually diverted into compostables versus landfill?
that's I'm not sure about that one, to be totally honest. I mean, as far as, you know, in our area, you know, it's still relatively new to me, but yeah, I mean, it's like we're a little bit behind the times in Wisconsin compared to Minneapolis and Minnesota and Illinois and stuff. So I mean, when stuff that gets diverted and whatnot, I mean, I think that, you know, the Stevens Point area it's still collecting food waste in buckets. You know, if you think put it in that perspective, where they're passing their subscription for people that handle buckets to residents and stuff. So it's like we're a little bit behind. So I'd say that the percentage of organics compared to food, like just the waste itself, is like we're pretty low. We're not doing very well.
And everything you're taking in at Hilltopper is all pre-consumer food waste, correct?
Correct.
As far as the organics goes.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Any interest from school districts at all?
So it's like, I don't know if you guys have seen that Onalaska High School has purchased, I know Casey's aware of this, of the dehydrator and stuff. So they invested, or they raised funds, from my understanding. I worked with Jody Vister, is the one at Onalaska School District. So she and her group of sustainability students and stuff, they fundraised to purchase this new piece of equipment. So they can, I think everything goes in there, right, Casey? I mean, you guys have one at Western, you know, your chicken bones, your protein, berries.
Yeah, we've been experimenting. Yeah.
Yeah. But in the end is, that's a totally different, I don't want to get too much going on that, but not a whole lot, to be totally honest. Besides the university, both Viterbo has been interested as well. The higher education, yes. High schools, no. Elementary schools, no.
And one final question here is, I mean, it just seems like this is a win-win-win, right, across the board. So my sort of big question is, why aren't more organizations doing this?
I'm not really sure. I mean, to be honest, I know it's like we're working on hopefully even getting just residential or a curb or a collection of carts and stuff for businesses and stuff. When you think of businesses downtown, there's no room to put an extra dumpster. So that's what we're kind of coming into issues with. You know, we've been in contact with Winona Health in Winona, that they're full on board to do something like this, but they don't have room for a 2-yard dumpster. So in the end, it's just like, well, you know, that if that's really the biggest issue, I mean, we can work around that eventually. But in the end, I think it's just people just don't realize that if it's done right, you can save money. They think of it as far as just another expense, whereas like, okay, you guys are just trying to get more money out of me. Whereas that's technically not the case. I mean, if your dumpster's filling up with 3/4 of pre-consumer food waste, you don't need your 4-yard dumpster anymore. You can go down to a 2-yard dumpster where that's going to be cheaper. Whereas like it's more cost effective to get rid of organics if it's clean than it is if it's refuse. So again, it's just like it's these 64 a ton for your refuse compared to 25 a ton for clean organics. So it's just like you really need to make sure that it's done right. But in the end, it takes time. It takes, you know, education of your employees and all that stuff if it were to be more business like. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of an area that we still need to work on our end as well, as far as.
So Brandon,
businesses.
I lied. I have one more question.
Sure. Yeah.
And that is, what can people in this chat right now, how can they help Hilltopper advance this mission of food, or, you know, organics and helping other organizations get their food waste into a better stream?
Well, like I said, and again, I kind of go back to that last question, is just the waste stream that is accepted right now, the material that's accepted. We don't accept any proteins, no dairies, so anything of that instance. So that makes up a lot of our waste stream. Our organic waste stream is just your meats and dairies and stuff that build up bacteria and stink things up. But so if it comes down to just this group here, is it's like we would need a larger facility, organic facility, compost facility with equipment and, just updated equipment. Really, it comes down to it in the end. Right now is what we do with our facility, or what the facility that we work with now is just everything's a little outdated. Like I said, is like I want to accept those dairies, those proteins and things like that. But in the end, it's just, the facility that we have currently just doesn't meet those needs. It's not looking to grow his facility and everything. So it's, in the end, it's, let's put our heads together and see what we can build or find as far as land goes, and start something new.
Nice. Well, great. Thank you so much, Brandon, for sharing the cool stuff that's happening with Hilltopper, and all the work that you've been really instrumental in bringing about. So I know you mentioned this was a team thing with Hilltopper, very much so, right? But it's also your leadership that's brought it about. So thank you so much for what you've done. And I mean, I think it's just really cool and important work. And it's work that I think a lot of people don't necessarily think about, right? When we talk about, we're just throwing something away, we don't necessarily think about what away is, right? And what it actually means, and all the other implications that happen because of, us getting rid of waste. So thank you again for your work. It's been great.
Of course. Yeah.
So everyone, before just a couple of final announcements, if you could please just take a moment to take a brief anonymous survey that's going to pop up on your screen here in just a sec, about your experience today. Again, this is anonymous, and it helps us at the Sustainability Institute figure out programming and directions we should go. So just take 15 seconds or so, 20 seconds to complete this really quick survey. All right. And as you're finishing that up, just a reminder that free programming like this is not possible at all without our members' support. So we are a membership organization. If you like what we're doing at the Sustainability Institute and you want to help support us in the shared vision that all of us really have, right, to bring about a cleaner and safer and healthier and more vibrant driftless area, if that's something that's important to you, please do consider becoming a member. We've got a variety of membership levels, so find one that fits your, find one that fits where you're comfortable giving, and become a member today. It's really easy to do. Just go to our website at sustaininstitute.com and click on Become a Member to get started. And that brings us to the end of June's session. Thanks again to Brandon Knudsen at Hilltopper Refuse and Recycling. It's awesome information, super inspiring what they're doing there. Thank you all for joining us. And next month, July, our July Sustainability Chats is featuring Hamilton Soda School here in the La Crosse School District, and SOLS, the Solar on La Crosse Schools, and some of the things that partnership is doing to not only bring renewable energy to the school district, but also to how that's connected to student learning. So we're looking forward to that event. Join us if you can. It's free to register, and that's July 20th at 3 p.m. So thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your June, and hopefully we'll see you in July.